All right, today we are going to be going over 6.5. Ooh, I just want to make sure it's recording. Okay, we're going to be going over 6.5, which is finding the percent of a number. So this is how you find how much tax is going to be, how much you should tip at a restaurant, how much something costs if it's 25% off. So we're going to be solving percent problems, and we're going to be using this proportion to solve it. Okay, so you should be familiar with setting these up like this because this is how we've been converting. This is how we've been using unit rates, all of those things. So we've been doing this for the past few weeks. I'm just going to show you a different way to solve the proportion than we have been. Okay, so this says percent over 100 equals part over whole. So remember, your percent is always out of 100. And then on the right, we're going to have the part and the whole. Okay. And then the part, if you see the keyword is, that's the part. And if you see the keyword of, that means whole. Okay. So it says the variable can be replaced in the part, whole, or percent. The 100 stays there every single time. So before I even read this next question, I know when I set this up, it's going to look like this. And the 100 is going to be in the bottom left. Okay, it's going to look like that every single time. So we want to find 98% of $60. So I want you to think if we estimated and we wanted to find 100% of 60, that would be 60. So we know 98% of 60, our answer should end up being very close to 60. Okay? You are going to want a calculator today. You're going to use it for almost every single question, so make sure you have a calculator. Okay? So when we set up our proportion, the percent is always on top of 100. So the 98 goes above the 100 because that's the percent. And then our keyword here says of. It says of 60. And if we look over at the left, of means whole. So that means 60 is going to go in the bottom right because it's the whole and we're trying to find the part. Okay. So we're missing the part, so I'm going to put an X above the 60, and that's what we're missing. Now we're going to solve this using the butterfly method. So we're going to bring it back to our equations that we learned how to solve. So our butterfly method, you're going to see me do this a lot, like this. Okay, usually you circle, I like to highlight. So you always multiply what's diagonal from each other. So we're going to do 98 times 60, because they're diagonal from each other. And we have equals, because they equal each other. And then the other two things that are diagonal from each other are the 100 and the x. So we're going to have 100 times x. So all we did was set up an equation with 98 times 60 and 100 times x. Now when we solve this, on the left side, we can do 98 times 60. So in my calculator, I'm going to multiply 98 times 60. And I get 5,880, and that equals 100 times x, or just x, it's the same thing. So now I can draw my line down my equal sign, and I'm going to divide both sides by 100, because remember we do the opposite of what's happening to the variable. So since the variable, which is x, is being multiplied by 100, we're going to divide both sides by 100. Okay, because we want the x by itself. 100 divided by 100 is 1. So I'm left with x on the right side, my equals down the middle, and then I have to do 5,880 divided by 100. Okay, and if you need to use your calculator, you can. And you would get 58.8 or 58 and 8/10, which makes sense because we said our answer should be around 60. And so our answer would just be 58 and 8/10. Okay. I know that's a lot of work, and it's going to take some getting used to, so you just have to bear with me. Okay, practice makes perfect. So on this next one, it says Sarah wants to score 78% on her next test. If the test has 40 questions, how many questions will she need to answer correctly? So she wants to score 78% on her next test. So I know when I set this up, it's going to look like that, and the 100 is in the bottom left. I know that the percent is always out of 100, so the percent goes above the 100. And then it says the test has 40 questions. How many questions will she need to answer correctly? So the test has a total of 40 questions, so that's the whole. Okay, if she wanted to get a 100%, she would need to get 40 questions correct. But we want to know, she wants to score 78%, so we want to know how many questions she needs to get right to get that 78%. So that's why 78 and the part are on the same row. Okay, so put your X where the part goes, and then we're going to set them equal to each other. So we multiply what's diagonal from each other. So 78 times 40 equals 100, and X are diagonal from each other. So 100 times X. And your first step is to multiply the two numbers that are on the same side of the equal sign. So we do 78 times 40, and we get 3,120 equals 100 times X, or 100X. We need to get the X by itself, so we're going to divide both sides by 100. 100 divided by 100 is 1, so I can cross that out. So we're left with X on the right side. On the left side, remember when you divide by 100, all you're doing is moving your decimal twice to the left. So it started there, and you're moving it twice to the left, and you would get 31 2/10. Okay, but if you needed to put that in your calculator, you can, and that would be our answer. So she would need, you probably can't get 0.2 of a question right. Maybe you can, but she would need about 31 questions correct to get an 78 on the test. Okay, on this next one. So of the 575 students attending a field trip, 36% are sixth graders. How many sixth graders are on the field trip? So when I set this up, the first thing I notice is the percent. I know that the percent is going to be with the 100. So it's going to be 36 over 100. And I have to figure out the number that it gives us. Is it the part or the whole? So it says there's 575 students attending the field trip, and 36% are sixth graders. And we want to know how many sixth graders are on the field trip. So that 575 students, does that represent 36% or does that represent 100% of students? Okay. Hopefully you can read that and figure out that it represents 100% of students, and we want to find out how many sixth graders there are, which is 36%, which is why that's up there. We're missing the part. So my X would go where the part goes. Okay, set this up. And you're going to multiply diagonally. So I'm going to multiply 575 times 36 equals 100 times X. Okay. Now in my calculator, I'm going to do 575 times 36. And we get 20,700 equals 100 times X, or 100X. And we're going to divide both sides by 100. So hopefully you've realized all we're doing is multiplying and then dividing. Those are the two operations that we're doing to solve these. Okay, we multiply diagonally and then we divide. So 100 divided by 100 is 1, so I can cross those out. And I get X on the right side. And then on the left side, you can either divide 20,700 divided by 100, or you can move your decimal twice to the left, and you would get 207. Okay, so out of the 575 students attending the field trip, 207 of them are sixth graders. Okay. Hopefully this is making sense to you. We're not going to do all of these. I'm going to pick and choose which ones we do, but we are going to do this one. Well, no, we're not. We're going to skip that one. So flip the page over. So on this one, we're going to set it up the exact same way. So set up your proportion, and the 100 is in the bottom left. So it says, what percent of 92 is 11.5? So this one's different because there's no percent. So that means I know right away that I'm missing the percent. So the X is going to go where the percent usually goes. Okay. And then we have to figure out, is the 92 the part or is the 11.5 the part, and which one is the whole? So this says of 92, and if I look over here, of is the whole. So that means the 92 is the whole, and it says is 11.5, and is the part. Okay. So I'd write part. I didn't write P because I didn't want you to get it confused with percent. So the 92 is the whole, so that goes in the bottom right. And then the part is 11.5, so that goes in the top right there. And then you're going to solve this the same way. I'm going to multiply diagonally, but this time 100 is diagonal from 11.5, so that's what I would multiply first. So I do 11.5 times 100 equals 92 times X. Okay. So then in your calculator, you could do 11.5 times 100, or you can also know that multiplying by 100 just moves your decimal 2 times to the right. So that would become 1,150 equals 92 times X, or 92X. And then you solve it by dividing. So remember, we always multiply and then we divide. So I would draw my line, and I'm going to divide both sides by 92. So you would have 1,150 divided by 92. Go ahead and put that in your calculator. And you would get 12.5 equals X. Okay. Next one. How many we got left? 3. Okay. The Johnsons went to dinner at Thirsty's and their bill was $62.80. They decide to leave a 20% tip. How much did the Johnsons spend after the tip? So we'll set up our proportion. So we know we have the percent over 100 equals the part over the whole. Now I can see right away that it gives us a percent. So that's going to go above the 100. When you think of the whole, I want you to think of the total, okay? Anytime it gives you a total, that is going to be the whole. So it gave us the total. Their bill was $62.80, so that's the whole, because we're trying to find 20% of that. Usually the tip is not as much as the actual bill is. So we're trying to find the tip, which is the part. We're trying to find 20% of $62.80. So multiply diagonally when you set it up. So we get $62.80 times 20 equals 100 times X. You're going to multiply $62.80 times 20. And you should get 1,256 equals 100 times X. And then from there, you're going to divide by 100. So draw your line, divide by 100 on both sides. 100 divided by 100 is 1. So I'm left with just X, because remember that's the whole goal, is to get the variable by itself. And then the last step is to divide 1,256 divided by 100. So you can divide that in your calculator, or you can just move your decimal twice to the left, and you would get $12.56. And it's a word problem, so it'd be $12.56 with a dollar sign. Okay. This next one is the last one we're going to do. If you want to try it on your own, go ahead and pause the video so that you can try it, and then you can fast forward to see if you got the answer, but make sure you double check that you got it correct. Okay, so the only difference on this one is that it gives us the percent and it's in decimal form, which is fine. We're going to solve it the exact same way. So when I set up my proportion, I have 100 in the bottom left. It gives us a percent, so it wants to know what is 0.8% of 35. So if I asked you what is 1% of 35, some of you would be able to say 3.5. Okay, which means 0.8%, since that's pretty close to 1%, our answer should be around 3 5/10. Okay. So 0.8% is my percent, so I'm going to put that above the 100. It says of 35. So if I look up here, the of is the whole. So that means the 35 is going to go in the bottom right where the whole goes, and we're missing the part. Set up your proportion with the equation. So you multiply diagonally. So we have 35 times 0 8/10 equals 100 times x. And so you would start by multiplying 35 times 8/10. And in your calculator, you should get 28. So you'd have 28 equals 100 times x. And then from there, you would divide by 100. So 28 divided by 100, do that in your calculator or move your decimal twice to the left. And you should get 0 and 28 hundredths. Which I was wrong about the 3.5. So ignore that. Sorry, 10% would have been 3.5. Whoops. Okay, so you would have gotten 28 hundredths as your answer. We're going to skip that last one. So let me know if you have questions. You can email me, but hopefully this made some sense.